Streaming live from the Paul and Catherine Ranke Memorial Studio. This is TV Free Baltimore. Support for TV Free Baltimore comes from viewers like you. Become a TV Free Baltimore member by visiting patreon.com/TV Free Baltimore.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello and welcome to Maryland Politics. I'm your host, Louise Baker. This evening we have Lance Griffin, a conservative who believes in freedom, individual responsibility, the rule of law, limited government, accountability, a strong national defense, and a government which offers a hand up, not a hand out. Lance is running for Congress in Maryland's 2nd Congressional District. Welcome, Mr. Griffin, to the show.
Well, thank you, Louise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your service. So I want to start by you telling us a little bit about what motivated you to run for office.
Well, first of all, I want to say I believe that I am the embodiment of the American dream. I truly believe that we live in the greatest country in the world, America. America, because of the rights that we have, which we are endowed with, there's natural rights, allows for opportunity, effort for all of us to be able to achieve. And that's the reason I'm running for office.
Are you a homegrown guy? Were you born and raised here in Baltimore?
Yes, Louise, I was. I was born in Baltimore County. Actually, I was born in Baltimore City in Mercy Hospital and grew up in the Dundalk area of Baltimore County. My family, due to some unfortunate health events, we were a little bit low on the economic ladder. And when I say low, I mean in terms of had to rely on public assistance for a period of time, to include food stamps. At times we received a Christmas basket of presents and food from the Boy Scouts and government cheese at one point in time. So I know what it's like to be on the lower end of the economic ladder. But one thing that my family always taught, my mom and dad always taught us, was dignity for ourselves, dignity for others, and for their property. And one thing that was paramount with them in teaching me and my siblings was education. I got to see my mother, she achieved her associate's degree and then her bachelor's degree so that she could become a teacher in Baltimore County. And what she and my father taught us in terms of in terms of education and its importance, caused myself to obtain a scholarship at Loyola Blakefield High School, as well as a scholarship at Loyola College, and to achieve a degree from Loyola College in accounting. While I was at Loyola College, I enlisted in the Maryland Army National Guard. I would eventually become an officer through the Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia, and then become an infantry officer serving through at the Pikesville Armory in Pikesville for the Maryland Army National Guard. As part of my civilian work experience after graduating from Loyola College, I worked as an auditor for Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Inspector General, as an auditor for a few years. And after a few years, I went to the Baltimore County Police Department for a few years, and then subsequently was applied for and obtained a position as a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and retired from the Federal Bureau of Investigation in December of 2021.
You've been out there protecting our freedoms for a while. So let's just talk about why is protecting our freedoms so important to you?
Well, as I mentioned before, the United States of America is the greatest country in the world because of those freedoms, as identified in the Constitution. And those are not all of our freedoms, but as Frederick Douglass quoted as the glorious liberty document, those freedoms have allowed the American people to achieve at a level never seen before in the world. And these freedoms have allowed people like myself and my family, who are not unique or special, to achieve moving from poverty up to the middle class. And that's been attained by everybody of every race, creed, and color. And so that's what I'm fighting for in terms of through quality education, quality schools, safe streets, and strong families. I believe every American has the ability to achieve in this country because of those freedoms outlined in the Constitution.
So with your upbringing, clearly you have some personal empathy for what people are going through right now with inflation. The annual inflation rate in the United States accelerated to 8.5% last month. in the month of March, and gas prices are now well above $4 a gallon. What do you see as the contributing factors to all of this?
Well, Louise, as you brought up, I certainly can emphasize or have empathy for people that are going through the increase in the inflation rate, because it's affecting people now. It affects my family now, and from my background, the value of a dollar means a lot to me. I have a 2001 Honda Odyssey that I keep because it's a value to me. And so certainly in terms of inflation, it's a silent tax that hits everybody, especially those that can least afford it. It impacts everything from the fuel pump to the table in terms of price of milk and price of eggs and price of bread and baby formula, if you can even find it at this point in time. And certainly in terms of our energy policy by the administration, they have caused the price of energy to go up. When you look at the previous administration under President Trump, or those who like him or don't like him, you can't argue about the fact that the price of fuel at the pump was so much lower than it is now, and that was because of the policy of the president at that point in time. So I think in terms of a change of administration, a change of Democrats to Republicans will change the energy policy so that we have energy security and have energy independence, where the United States will be a net exporter as opposed to an importer like we are now.
Crime is something else that is first and foremost in the minds of our country's citizens. Inflation and crime is what I'm hearing about. So your career has been to protect and serve. From FBI crime data, 1 in 255, or a Marylander has 1 in 255 chances of being a victim of violent crime. Baltimore City, 1 in 61. What can be done to stop the skyrocketing crime rates we're seeing on the news every day?
Well, crime is out of control, Louise, especially in our major cities. And that is going from our major cities, going out to the suburbs and to the rural areas. It's the liberal politicians have decided that for some reason, the criminal has somehow become the victim. Instead of the criminal justice system in these areas focusing on the fact that the criminal has in fact perpetrated a crime and we should be focusing on the victims, somehow it's become 180-degree turned around that the criminal is now the victim, and they seem to be afraid to punish the victim. We have, from when I was a police officer in Baltimore County, that a felony theft was $300. Now it's well over $1,000 for a felony theft. You cannot have this increasing these limits and then expect to have crime go down. So I think what you're seeing is the left focusing on the criminal as opposed to the victim, and we have to turn that around. When I get to Congress, I will support our men and women in law enforcement, provide them with the money for training, for personnel, so that we can increase the police and federal law enforcement response. This would include also expanding the U.S. Attorney's Office so that they can increase the federal prosecution of violations of federal statutes, include the Hobbs Act and other criminal statutes that would apply to those, and certainly in the District of Maryland, as well as other districts across the United States.
You know, more and more we're hearing on the news about repeat criminal offenders, people that have been arrested 1, 2, 10 times prior, and they're released and they're committing additional violent crimes. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, certainly, Louise. One of the things that we certainly see is on the state side, you typically see that when somebody is sentenced to a crime, they'll be lucky if they serve about 30% of their time. In the federal side, if somebody gets charged, they'll be more likely to serve about 80% of their time, sometimes not even in the state in which they committed the crime. So that's, for example, one of the things that I would certainly be in favor of would be pushing the funding of Project Exile, which was a program that I first heard about that occurred in Richmond, Virginia, which basically has the United States Attorney's Office prosecuting federally those crimes which are committed with a handgun. Now, this would you would need to increase the funding for the U.S. Attorney's Office as well as for those investigative agencies that would work to help with the assistance in those investigations. But this would lead to a longer sentence times for those people that are committing those crimes, thereby keeping the violent offender longer behind bars. So I also think that certainly as a congressman, you have to support at the state level that legislation, which is important for increasing the sentencing of violent offenders. Certainly you didn't see that from the incumbent doing that at the state legislature this year, and they didn't support Governor Hogan's idea to have transparency for judicial sentencing. So I think those types of things would be beneficial, and why one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress. And I think certainly my anti-crime platform is a hit with the people in this district.
Does Project Exile apply to illegal immigrants that are pouring into this country? I think over 200 and some thousand came in last month.
Yes, Louise. Project Exile, along with any violation of a federal statute, would apply to illegal immigrants. They would have to be convicted, and they would serve their time per the statute, and then they would be remanded to their home country.
So illegal immigration is also extremely costly to this country. According to the Federation for American Immigration Reform, it costs American taxpayers approximately $132 billion annually, and that number could exceed $200 billion by the year 2025. Illegal border crossings have exploded under the Biden administration. What are the root causes of this, and what could be done to curb these illegal border crossings?
Well, one of the prime responsibilities of the federal government is to protect its people. And certainly with this administration, along with the support of the Democrats in Congress, they decided to stop building the wall that was started by President Trump. That wall would have slowed down immigration into the United States, as well as slowed down the amount of illegal drugs coming into the United States. And both of those have a tremendous effect, negative impact on the United States. This past year, we had over 100,000 people died of an overdose because of illegal drugs. And a large portion of that was from fentanyl, which the precursors come from China into Mexico and then come across that border, that very porous border, because we don't have a wall, into the United States. So again, the federal government has very few responsibilities per the Constitution. One of them is to protect its people and to protect its border. So this is a national security violation that this administration is not holding up to and protecting the American people.
So in addition to crime and inflation, education is first and foremost on a lot of people's minds. Instead of teaching our children reading, writing, and arithmetic, they're learning critical race theory and gender identity studies as young as kindergarten through third grade. What do you propose can be done to fix our broken school system?
Well, Louise, thank you for that question. And as I mentioned previously, education was very important to my family. It's one of the major ways that people can move from poverty up to the middle class. It's that opportunity for again, it has to be a quality education to be able to do so. And so I think in terms of this firsthand, I would have the federal monies follow the student. That's the quickest way in terms of that. I think that way the parents get to choose where they want their child to be educated. If they want their child to stay in public schools, that's fine. If they want their child to go to charter school, that's fine. If they want the child to be homeschooled, that's fine as well. And so therefore the federal money would follow the student. Because it's the student that we want to get educated. We're not here to prop up unions. We're not here to prop up administrations. So that would be the quickest, I think, this most expedient method of having some immediate change. The other item that would impact it would be following along with Governor DeSantis in terms of what you were bringing up with the gender studies. I believe that type of information is wholly not pertinent to somebody third grade or lower. Again, I would even move it up to the fifth grade. But I think certainly what Governor DeSantis is doing in Florida is certainly appropriate. I don't remember having those type of discussions in school until we were in seventh grade, and certainly anything related to those type of material, that it should be the parents' purview at home, and that information should be, again, reading, writing, and arithmetic is based, and STEM-related activities should be what schooling is about. We don't have, schools certainly in the urban areas, especially if you take a look at Baltimore, where Patterson High School has reported only 2% of the high school students were reading at a level. That's unconscionable. If we talk about a pipeline from the schools to the prisons, that's why. If Johnny can't read, do writing, or arithmetic, what's Johnny supposed to do? So again, when you have ghost students and you're just passing along failing students, we have to have accountability. And so one of the other things I would do for accountability purposes, besides money following the student, is that we should have audits on terms of federal monies that are going to these school systems. We have to know where the money is going to make sure that we're getting the bang for our buck. I'm a certified fraud examiner, and I think, certainly in terms of any school that receives a certain amount, any school district that receives a certain amount of money should have to do an independent audit, and that audit shouldn't be done by that school agency or the agency that the money passed through. It should be from an independent agency to ensure that our tax dollars are actually being utilized properly, and so to educate the students of, be it Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Carroll County, anywhere in the state of Maryland, across the country. If our students are competing against students from around the world, and we have to make them a first-class education system. And so that's what the money has to be utilized properly for. And I think, again, money follows the students, proper accountability of the flow of those funds, and then proper education of what should be taught. So, and again, that's what I think in terms of education, Louise.
Alrighty. Well, Lance, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. Your dedication to protection and service to our country is very impressive. Can you please provide the audience with a closing statement, let our viewers know why they should vote for you, and be sure to include your contact information?
Well, again, thank you, Louise, and for the people at home watching this, I certainly appreciate you taking the time to stay this long in the video. I believe, like I said before, that this country, America, is the greatest country in the world. And it is so because of the Constitution-based freedoms which we have. Those freedoms allow us to have opportunity and effort to achieve. And that you can achieve from no matter what your race, your sex, your creed, your color, and it's for everybody, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, don't even get involved in politics. And so that's what I've taken an oath to uphold and protect and defend the Constitution, because it stands for those freedoms which allow us to be able to achieve in this country. And I think that's what we need to do at this point in time. So again, I need your support to go to Congress. And so if you can support me by going to my webpage, it's www.lancegriffinforcongress.com, or on my Facebook page, Lance Griffin 2022. Thank you all, and God bless America.
Thank you, and good luck with your campaign.
Thank you, Louise. Have a good evening.
And thanks all of you for watching Maryland Politics. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at TV Free Baltimore. I'm your host, Louise Baker. Take care, stay safe, and please join us for our next interview. Bye.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.